Hi, this is Chris Potter. The topic of this video is cleaning and maintenance of the bass flute. So the first thing we want to do is figure out how to put it together with a minimum amount of damage in the long run. So the first thing we want to think about is not using the rods to help to twist and put the flute together, because all that pushing and pulling on the rods is going to lead to problems in the future. So I've got my hand up here at the top of the body and down here at the bottom of the foot joint, and I'm going to slide and twist to put them together. Now sometimes we have a little bit of trouble with the connection between the pieces not working very well. It's too tight, and this is called the tenon, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the curve on. Now, even though the curve looks like each one is the same, there's actually one that's slightly larger than the other one. The one that's slightly larger goes onto the body of the flute. So sometimes we think that the size of the head, the curve is changed, and in reality it's only because we're putting it on strangely. So what I've learned with mine is that the name of my flute goes on the outside facing away from me. So I slide that on, and then I get the head joint. And again, I'm holding up here. I'm not trying to twist anywhere else. And I'm trying to make sure I put it on square and that it slides in nice and easily. Now, the problem a lot of people have is that sometimes this connection gets a little bit dirty, and we have to figure out how to clean that so that it goes on smoothly and easily. Because if we try to pull it off and it's really tight, what happens is that we end up banging it into the rods of the flute. And I've done this myself, and it ends up putting little dings on the inside of the head joint. And then if you get a big one, you're not going to be able to put it in there, and you're going to have to go get it fixed. So we'd like to avoid that. The first thing you're going to do, if you're having trouble sliding these in, you get a piece of facial tissue, and you just wipe off that section. You just wipe off that section. Paper is actually very mildly abrasive, so it's going to take off a layer of dirt and a little bit of oil. You're going to clean off both spots where that slides in, and hopefully that will be enough. It'll do it for you. If that's not enough, a wonderful alternative that works really well is that you get a little alcohol prep pad, and you're going to clean the surfaces with the alcohol prep pad. So just wipe it on like this. Alcohol is a terrific solvent, so it's going to get rid of, going to do a very good job of getting rid of oil and grease and the dirt that has tended to collect. You're going to wipe off both places, and that does an excellent job of cleaning. Wow, really goes in there. I went a little bit too quickly. It really does a really good job of cleaning that off. Now, if you don't happen to have an alcohol prep pad with you, you can just get a pencil, and you're going to just draw onto the tenon. Pencil lead is actually graphite, and graphite is a lubricant used for sticky locks, and it will not collect dirt or oil. So it's an excellent thing to try, and you're going to do it on both places. We're just putting this little layer of graphite, which is just a little round mineral. So that will work if you don't have the alcohol prep pad to clean things off. Now we do, of course, have to make sure that we get the head joint in square. If you have it slightly at an angle, it really doesn't want to go in. Now, if you have those alcohol prep pads, here's something else that you might want to do. I just had a call the other day from somebody who said they'd been sick and they were afraid of reinfecting themselves. So just get that alcohol prep pad. You can wipe that off, wipe off the inside, because germs will certainly grow where it's warm and moist. So we're going to just wipe that out on the inside, and then that will get rid of any germs that might be growing in there. Now, you noticed that I put my flute down here. I put it on a peg. So this is the one that I happen to have. This one's made out of wood. This is obviously a 3-pegger. Bass flute pegs come in two styles. One is made out of a clear acrylic, and one of them is, and another kind is made out of wood. And you can get, you buy the bottom section, and then you decide how many slots you want to have or how many different pegs. So you can buy a 1-pegger, a 2-pegger, a 3-pegger, a 4-pegger, and the pegs are all separate from the cost of the bottom section. Now this is the greatest way to store your flute. If you're in the middle of a piece and you're doubling on C flute, you want to be able to put it down. This is so much better than putting it on your lap where it might roll off, which would be a disaster. So you definitely want to get one of these pegs. A cleaning routine. When you're finished playing and you want to clean your flute, this is what I do. I take them apart and I put the pieces back in the case just so that everything is safe and in a good spot. I'm not having to worry about holding on to any of the parts. So I take it all apart. And then I start the cleaning process. I use something called a flute swab, and Flute World has these, Carolyn Nussbaum's has these, Flute Specialist has these, called the Flute Swab. We've got 3 different parts. We've got the flannel piece of fabric here in the middle. I've got a very flexible curved wand here, and then I have the straight stick right there. So you start with the driest part of your instrument first. So this just goes right through there. Then I would do the body. Probably want to do that twice since there's more moisture in there and more pads. So I put that through. Then I get the curved part and I put it through here. Now it clearly doesn't go all the way through because of that straight stick, but you can see that there's plenty of fabric going in there, that it's going to get all the moisture out. And then I do the head joint. So then I get the stick part and I put some fabric over the end of the stick, put it through there, move it around, go to a different part of the cloth. So I'm going to do it a second time because this is definitely the wettest part of the instrument. It's going to be the head joint, so I do it twice. Really want to try to get that moisture out of there. Now, whatever flute cleaning device you use, you want to make sure that it will go through the curve and that it will also go up and get into the head joint, all the way to the very end of the head joint. There are other swabs which don't do both of those things, and it's absolutely important that we do that. We've got to keep the moisture away from the pads because the moisture gets into the pads and then it ruins them. I have had problems from time to time with the pads even being sticky coming out of the case, especially the pads that close a key when they're sitting in the case. So the E-flat key, the A-flat key, and the trill keys are all likely to have this happen to them from time to time. So you get them out of the case and you hear that gushy sound which you can't stand. So what I do, I happen to have this old package of cigarette paper. It's been around for, I don't know, 20 years. And I just put that piece of paper underneath the pad, close it up, and I just put it into the case like that. And within 2 or 3 days, that moisture problem is taken care of. There are official pad cleaning papers. You can get those, again, Flute World, Carolyn Nussbaum's Flute Specialists. Okay. Think, how often should I have it cleaned? You know, it so much depends on how much you play it and what kind of environment your flute is in. If you live in a very dusty place or you have animals with pet hair, then you're probably going to need to get it cleaned. Flutes, if you're playing them a lot, they say about every year. I haven't had too much trouble with my bass. I get it cleaned, oiled, and adjusted about every 3 years, unless I'm having trouble, but I haven't had any trouble with it. So, but that's something that you want to entrust to someone that you know. Don't take this down to your local music shop where they fix all the band instruments unless you know for sure that the repair person really is comfortable working with flutes. Send the flute back to wherever you purchased it, or you might call on up and ask me, where can I send my flute? I'm having this problem with it. Pads last about 7 years. It depends on how dry you're able to keep your instrument. The water really does the most damage to the pads. That and squeezing too hard, that's the other problem. But if you religiously keep the flute very dry when you put it into the case, yeah, they should last about 7 years. I have had some reports of some instruments not staying in adjustment, that the repair person fixes it and 2 weeks later the same problems are happening. The keys aren't quite closing right. And I've, again, several reports of this problem. So my solution is, first of all, you should ask the repairman, saying, this flute just doesn't seem to be staying in adjustment. What can I do? What do you suggest? One of my solutions that has worked in the past is that you get some clear fingernail polish. Once you've got it adjusted where you want it, you put some clear fingernail polish on it, and that will keep the screw from backing out. And you can also get rid of that fingernail polish with some fingernail polish remover if you need to. Now, why is it doing this? Because when they made the instrument, the metal wasn't hardened enough. It wasn't heated to a high enough temperature, so the metal is too soft. So the screw doesn't have anything to hold on to once it's adjusted. Well, I hope I was able to give you some ideas that will help you. Thanks.